Good morning, I'm Ferdi Salvador and welcome to Industry Beacon, where we shine a light on the trailblazers, the disruptors, and the leaders shaping our future. And in each episode, we'll explore how they're staying ahead in their fields, one industry at a time. In focus this morning, the story of how the pandemic pushed a company to pivot from being a powerhouse in the events industry into a multidisciplinary firm. From event styling and now interior design, Mos Design House surely is leading the pack. By blending artistry with functionality, how were they able to reboot the company into what it is now? Let's speak to my friend Cyndi Fernandez-Beltran, co-founder and design director at Mos Design House. Hi, Cyndi.
Hi, Ferdi.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I know your schedule's insane because you've got events left and right.
Yep.
So, I see now you've changed your name from Mos Manila to...
Yes, to Mos Design House.
Okay,
yes.
what's the process? Tell me what the story is behind Mos Design House.
Okay, so why we had to rebrand. So, backstory is we've been here for about 15 years. We used to be Mos Manila.
Yes.
But then we were thinking more of a global mindset and thinking of perhaps maybe the Manila was kind of like grounding us a little bit, and then changed it into Mos Design House because pre-pandemic, Mos Manila was kind of like known a lot for events, just events.
Yes.
And then during the pandemic, we had to pivot and we had to stay relevant. And what was relevant at that time was really, interiors and people changing their houses.
Correct. Everybody was doing home improvement.
Everybody was doing
what
home
else would you do when you're stuck at home, right? Yeah.
So what we did was we took the discipline of event design where you transform spaces into like 3 days, 2 days or less.
Wow.
And we took that discipline into interior design where we had to transform spaces into like 3 days or 4 days.
That's possible?
Yes. And then, so we did the makeovers, and that's what you probably have seen in the YouTube show then.
Yes.
And changed the name to Mos Design House. So it's really, one multidisciplinary design studio.
Well, so I know you've done numerous events. I mean, I used to be in the events industry. You're my colleague in the events world, but you have taken the events world by storm. I know we're talking about 15 years ago, but recently, in the past couple of years, you've been hitting it hard with global brands.
Right.
So, for example, I'll mention the brands later because I know sometimes you're not allowed to mention it, even if it's just, brewing, right? But you have done the likes of Hermes, Dior, Vogue even, Joe Malone, and for their how should we say, not only events but their activations, right?
Yeah.
Which one? What really piqued my interest was the recent Hermes event, wherein it was interactive, right?
Right.
So tell me what the process is, because you're arguably the number one, the Birkin of event stylists and coordinators in the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
What is the process if I were a brand and I go to you? How does it work?
Right. So number one is that, we've been working with them, this particular brand, for a very long time. We've done their launches. They do one major event every year, and we even do their window display. So we've kind of like know the brand by heart. But the process is that really, there's a lot of people in play. It's not really just us. So we do meet with the client. They have a concept already in mind. And we do work with a lot of the regional people. So we do work with the French people, Paris, and we actually do report to them as well.
Of course, for all different brands,
for all different brands, yes, for all different brands. And there is a playbook that's already there. So we do a fit out and we do a kit, yes. Yes, kind of like a kit for it. And we do the interpretation and adaptation of that in the Philippines, in the Philippine setting, what works, what doesn't work, because different regions have different markets and they also have different audiences to cater to.
So you localize it.
So we localize it.
Right.
What is possible here and how do we even make it better? So that's how we usually partner with them.
Obviously, launches of brands is very vital to their businesses.
Yes.
And they pour a lot of resources into making sure that their events are noteworthy
Yes.
and memorable. And this
Yeah.
is why we go to the events, and we like certain brands that we go to. We do expect
Yes.
something different.
Yes.
Do you, if they don't have a kit, do you run out of ideas?
No, we always have to come up with ideas. I mean, that's what we're getting paid for.
Do you dream about them?
Yes, I do.
Me too.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I think now the brands have been really more experimental. Again, I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've really seen how it had evolved from back then when I was working with Robbie Carmona, because it was Robbie
a good
Carmona
friend,
who's
yes.
actually had my foot in the door in the event design business. And from there to now, it has really evolved into immersive brand experiences. I know immersive is a term that has been thrown out for the past 2, 3, 4 years, but my take would always be when a guest would come in, how would they feel? And the takeaway will always be not just the brand itself, but it's how a space actually made them feel. It's the
Right.
emotion that's actually drawn out from them
Right.
that will make people remember. So anything that we do, whether that's a decoration, whether that's the layout, the flow, or a certain experience, that will always be your end goal.
Right.
For people to actually have kind of like a lasting impression.
What about this sense? Because our viewers obviously are top industry leaders, and they do host. I mean, it's part of the job.
Yes.
And especially their partners, their domestic partners. They always host dinners, lunches, and stuff like that. How would you suggest them to make something immersive or memorable aside from just the food and flowers? Because obviously these individuals, they don't have time. They hire people, but if they
Yes.
want to do it themselves, how would you suggest an immersive or interactive luncheon or dinner?
Number one would be personalize them. There's nothing like a very personal dinner at home, or even just a note card, a handwritten card for them, or a name card that's personal for them. Those things, and then you can actually do. I remember attending one of the dinners for one of the champagne brands, and there was one guest that
I know that champagne brand. I was there.
One guest actually stood up and just, had to ask individually questions. How do you feel today? What makes you, give me 3 words that would make you feel good. I think it's not just, it doesn't end on the decor itself. You're correct, doesn't end on the food itself, but it's also part of the conversation and how you have your guests participate.
Yes.
In
I
a
mean,
dinner.
I have a friend who actually, her and her family are so immersive with their dinner or dining experience.
Yeah.
At one time, they had a soup bowl within a fish bowl with live fish going around. I mean, it's those. I know
Right.
some people might find it crazy, in fact, but that stuck to my head. I mean, that's memorable. It's just not about the food, but give me 5 elements that individuals should take note of or make sure that they have if they're hosting an event.
Okay, one would be, I would have to say, a good invite. Something that's personal. Even, I know invites are something that's quite, physical invites, it's quite thrown out, but there's nothing like a personal note that says, I would love for you to be here, and state the reason why. So that's one. Second would be good food. Nothing beats good food.
Does it have to be over the top?
No, it doesn't have to be over the top. I feel like whatever you feel is appropriate for a theme. Third would be, I would always be good champagne. Drinks, champagne.
Libations, yeah.
Yes, and so anything that they can actually be creative about. So maybe perhaps even have a mimosa station, something that they can actually do creatively. One would be, I'd say, good conversations. And then last would be decor. Of course, that's my main field.
Yes.
And the decor starts from establishing a theme, a color palette, something that's very cohesive to begin with. and then anything that would be personal.
Let's talk about decor, right? We're going to take a quick break. Industry Beacon will be right back. Stay with us. We're back and you're still watching Industry Beacon here on BNC. Still with us is Cyndi Fernandez-Beltran of Mos Design House. So Cyndi, before we took a short break, we were talking about design and decor, right? So do you incorporate sustainable practices with your design philosophies or even the materials?
Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, because we do have a rental arm. So that's actually falls within circular economy. I mean, we do keep on renting out furniture and then we just have to change upholsteries just to kind of like reinvent them. So that's one part of that business. And then second part would be, one of the trends actually now is that instead of doing set designs, it's actually done in, say, spaces that don't require a lot of things to be built.
Okay.
Hence, there's less items to produce and less items to throw out. So we kind of like look into spaces wherein what is the beauty of an architectural space and kind of like hinge on base an event design based on that.
So people at home can do this, no?
Yeah.
So how do you manage that? How do you navigate, like, because I'm at heart maximalist, but I need to be a minimalist because my space is not big enough.
Right.
How do you navigate that? Like,
I mean, in terms of, decor, we say it a lot, you try to repurpose decorations and then try to make sure that you have the basics to mix and match decor, right? So that's your most practical solution in trying to make sure that you don't keep on purchasing items. But also the use of the florals itself, you try to be able to mix and match, say, something that you can get off your garden. You don't have to,
I noticed with your events, it seems like there's a lot of florals.
Yes.
But actually, if you look at it, there's really not. You use a lot of dry materials.
Yes, yes.
What's
and
the
greens,
reason?
actually.
Greens, correct.
So a lot of the greens, and in fact, I just left, I was using this moss as well that I can just reuse over and over again and then just reinvent that, how to make it look different from one event to another. I think there's a lot of beauty in just picking out items from, say, the garden or like even I did one event wherein I had to use everlasting flowers from Baguio and it turned out beautiful. So it doesn't
it's all about taste.
It's really all about taste.
Yes.
I agree with you.
And perspective of how to use it.
And how to be able to compose it well so it looks correct, tasteful.
Tell me, what's your overview of the events industry in the Philippines? Are we growing? Are we going up, sideways? What do you personally think?
I honestly think out of the pandemic, it wasn't just travel revenge, it was event revenge. And I think that's the reason why business is good. Because there was a clamor for people to go out and experience brands in a different way that's not just in TV or not just in their iPads and phones, right? I think, again, there's really more of these exclusive, inclusive events that are happening where they're smaller, but then their guest lists are not tied up into society anymore. There's a lot of
okay, so that's a clincher and a needle into your heart. But why do you think it's no longer society based? Are Filipinos becoming? I know our middle class is growing, which is amazing.
Right.
Do you think it's the Filipino palate's getting more sophisticated? Is this the reason behind the?
Yes, I think so, because when I look at the guest list, there is the society part, but there are also industry leaders already that's part of this, the list, you know. I see those who champion in sustainability. I see those who champion on arts and culture attending all these events versus before where it was just all your top society people. So I think there's also an evolution in the way the way brands know who they're going to invite. It's not just their clamor and the clout. And then again, there's also this factor of of craftsmanship. So a lot of the brands that we work with now, what I've noticed is that they go back to their heritage.
Yes.
So they let their guests experience their heritage and craftsmanship. Again, I've been working with the 4 top brands in the world, and they've been practicing that over and over. Hermes has also been doing that.
Of course, they're very heritage-based.
Very heritage-based.
Dior is heritage-based.
Yes,
right?
and even some of the local brands that we actually do work with, they want to go back to how did they start?
Are you allowed
and
to
what
say
is
who?
their story? Happy Skin.
Okay.
I mean,
They're building their heritage.
They're also building their story because we did finish their 10th year anniversary last year, and it was all about how did they grow.
Right.
So I think it really is so important for brands now to make people experience it through visual narratives, through, not just selling. The selling is already just a byproduct of the event.
Do you think we're getting event stress?
I hear that a lot from the press and media attending. That's why I think it's important that people just really choose. Number one, I think there should be a universal calendar in the Philippines. But it's important that people get to choose which events that they go to and
Correct.
which one speaks to them more.
Last question, Cyndi. What is your biggest mistake?
Okay. Biggest mistake.
I got you, didn't I?
You got me there. My biggest mistake in the industry happened in 2016 when I didn't fire myself from holding all the departments.
Interesting.
So it failed us to grow. So when I started firing myself and just choosing which one to handle, the business grew.
I love that. Firing yourself. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Cyndi. I'm going to take that. I'm going to tattoo that in my mind. Thank you so much, Cyndi
Thank
Fernandez-Beltran. And that is for today's show. I'm Ferdi Salvador. Catch the Bilyonaryo News channel on Free TV Channel 31 and on cable via Cignal Channel 24. Thank you for watching the Bilyonaryo News channel. Always on top.